Hi everyone, this is Arimia from Crystal Gameworks, an Otome game and boys love visual novel studio. Today we're going to look at how I wrote and made my free cute Otome game, Lilacs in the Breeze. Lilacs in the Breeze is a slice-of-life Otome game about a woman starting a new life in a new town, leaving her past completely behind her. That is, until her childhood friend shows up one day at the bed and breakfast she lives at. He doesn't recognize her at first, even though she immediately recognizes him, so there's a back and forth of hidden identities. It's only been a couple of years since they last saw each other, but he doesn't recognize her because she's now a trans woman. The idea for Lilacs in the Breeze came from when I created the Trans Joy Jam last January. It's a game jam centered around making games and stories featuring trans characters getting happy endings. I decided that the main character would be a trans woman named Thalia, starting her life anew. She's already confident in her decision, but the past is all around us, and sometimes it sneaks up on us when we're least expecting it. Still, this should mostly be a comfy story, so the story should focus on her being torn on her feelings for her love interest and enjoying their time together rather than being scared of him or what he might do. The childhood friend, Percy, her love interest, of course, was designed in her image. He is blonde, as her wig is partially blonde, and there are parts of his past that Thalia referenced when planning her new life that you can pick up on in the full game. Percy is her childhood friend, but he's a bit of a blank slate. Rather than having Thalia's past be defined by the player, I wanted to let the player mold Percy's backstory. I wasn't able to add many branching ways that this would affect the story given the time limit from the game jam, but the player is able to decide on different parts of his past as Thalia reflects on him. Did he leave home to take care of a sick relative? Did he leave for a better education? What happened to him when they were younger? There's a lot of interesting ways this could affect the story and how the player perceives him in a larger tale. This is a story of how you perceive the world around you and being perceived by others. I drew their sprites quickly in Clip Studio Paint as game jams require a short time frame, so I couldn't put too much detail and time into a single asset. Their designs are pretty simple and modest, with Percy's being the more detailed one, if you could call it that. We can reason that Thalia wears hand-me-downs, given that she works for someone, and you couldn't exactly go and buy a whole new wardrobe whenever you wanted new clothes back then, as this is a historical setting. I wanted her design to be simple but cute, feminine but easy to work in. She does a lot of the cleaning and upkeep at the bed and breakfast she's been taken in at, so she has to be able to move around a lot. But she's also an Otome protagonist, so she has to be cute. Despite this, though, the outfits don't lend much to historical accuracy. That was one aspect where I was a little lax. They have a Victorian-ish aesthetic to them, and that was enough for me in that regard. If you want to see a stronger attempt at Victorian dress, you should check out my other Otome game, Crimson Waves on the Emerald Sea, Amaranthine Moon. I like writing pseudo-historical settings, so Lilacs in the Breeze is set in a pseudo-French town 100 or so years ago. The story doesn't focus much on these details, but I did have to do some research because of the time period. Things like Thalia using a washboard to wash clothes, the lifestyles of traveling salesmen in the mid to late 1800s, and more. Back then, people could easily disappear and reappear somewhere else as a completely different person. I really like that concept, as it's one that I played around with in my other visual novel, Asphodelium, and continued to poke at here. If you could walk away from it all and know that there's only a slim, tiny chance you'd ever be found out, would you? With today's technology and how much our lives are tracked and monitored, it's become increasingly impossible to lose yourself in that sense. But back then, it was not only possible, but it happened. And also, how did it feel to those you left behind? If you had a friend who one day vanished, what would you do? People do go missing still, but we often have a lot of clues on how to find them. Social media posts, phone pings, CCTV footage, and things like that. If you had none of that, how would you even begin to search for them? The anonymity of it all is what interests me so much. Getting the game done within a month was somewhat of a challenge, as the script kept getting longer and longer. Despite them being childhood friends, I wanted it to feel like they were falling in love as if they had just met. Towards the end of Trans Joy Jam, I was scrambling to get all of the artwork done. Thalia and Percy only have one outfit each, but I was planning on having Thalia swap parts of her look at times. An earlier version of the outline called for a scene of Thalia sitting in her room at night with her wig off, staring at the moon and contemplating her time with Percy. But I had to scrap this for time. I was able to draw 2 cutscene graphics, or CGs, for the game, one of which is also the key visual you can see here. I avoided drawing lots of details in the CGs so that I could get them done in time. That's another reason why their designs are more on the simple side, as it means that they're easier to draw over and over again. Small things like that help over the course of making an entire game. Last but not least, let's talk about the design of the game itself. As you've probably noticed, the game resolution isn't the standard 16:9, but rather more of a square look. Since there's only 2 characters on screen at any time, that can lead to a lot of wasted space on screen if the game resolution is wide, like 1920 by 1080. You can fix this by zooming in on the sprites, but you can also just make the screen resolution width smaller. No one's stopping you. You can do that. I wanted it to look reminiscent of older games that had never heard of 4K resolution, games that launched as tiny little windows. The GUI should be an accent as much as it is a tool to the game. It's your interface, so it should go alongside the aesthetics of everything else. Remember, this was a game jam game, and game jams are great places to try new things, so I used that to try this kind of UI out. What do you think about it being more like a square than a full typical resolution that we see nowadays? And that's a look at Lilacs in the Breeze, my short trans Otome game. You can play it on Steam and itch.io completely for free, and I hope that this helped show how you can make your own game in such a short amount of time. If you like Otome games or romance visual novels in general, then check out the rest of our games on Steam and subscribe here on YouTube. We do video devlogs like these, post art time-lapses, upcoming visual novel trailers, and more. Thanks again, and bye for now!